welcome someone who is in this movie, the great, the one and only Paul Giamatti. So this is a real thrill and an honor for me. Is this on? Is this working? Yeah.
Yes.
To be talking with you about this movie. I feel like when I saw this film, it's very intimidating that everybody's filming it. Film it for a minute, but let's try to be here together a little bit. You know, you film as you wish. I'm not here to dictate to what people do. It just is a little intimidating. I like to talk to you guys. I felt when I watched this movie that something happens with an actor in a part sometimes when a performer has lived their life and done their craft the right way, that we as an audience member develop a relationship with the performer, you know, over time. And it culminated for me in this part. You know, the joy, like there's aspects, this character is so well suited to what you do.
The fish smell is what it
The
is.
fish smell, yeah. You know, I mean, I have been, we are peers, Paul and I. I saw Paul, first time I remember seeing you is in Arcadia.
Oh, wow.
Right?
A long time ago.
Yeah. He was in this Stoppard play.
Great play.
That was a seminal moment in my life.
Yeah. Your friend Bob Leonard was
Bob
in it.
Leonard,
Yeah,
Billy
he's
Crudup,
fantastic.
they're both in it.
People, yeah.
And you might put it together, someone didn't get the part. It was back in those days, but I still went with a good attitude, and I was blown away.
It's a great play.
It's Tom Stoppard, it's one of his masterpieces, and when I saw people of my generation being a part of meaningful, substantive art,
Yes, that was a really special. That was awesome. And Crudup, and then I think I know where you're going. Getting to watch Crudup through his.
I don't care about him.
Oh, no. You know what I mean?
It is like that.
But seeing from then to now, I know. Yeah, it's really
when you're
cool.
watching somebody and you're growing up across the room for them, and we see each other sometimes, and you can go a couple years without seeing each other, but you're watching a friend and a peer's work, and in this performance, something comes to full bloom. I really mean
That's
that.
nice.
That
That's
sounds
interesting, as
and
you said.
I feel that you have put in the time and the work that this character, we have a relationship with you, the actor, that suits the character, and so it all feeds into itself.
No, and
Did you feel that? What was it like when you first got the script?
What's cool too about it, I mean, I know you do like to think you get to a point now you've sort of gained enough flexibility and skill that you're better at a thing, you know, so that you can kind of access whatever you're given. But then something comes along that you feel really suited for. The interesting thing with this was, for me too, was so much of my own life and background was in this character.
Because your father's a teacher.
All my family was teachers. My father, my mother, my grandparents, my brother's a teacher now. I thought about being teachers everywhere. And I went to a place like this, and I had teachers like this. And I knew all of these guys, my father's colleagues, my mother's colleagues, these weird, eccentric, bitter, fucked up academics.
Really bad dandruff too,
Bad
you know?
dandruff.
Yeah.
But just, just damaged, amazing people, brilliant people. Like, they're so smart, and their biggest liability in life is their intelligence. They're trapped by their own intelligence. Just these amazing people. So there was a sense for me too of like, oh, this is all, I'm ready to do this because I've never done this guy or anything like this before. So I had this well to draw on very unconsciously. So I think in a way I felt that same thing of like, right, I'm ready to do this because I know this really well, which makes it hard too in a way. Because I keep thinking I'm not working the right way or I'm not working enough because all this stuff is just kind of coming unconsciously. But then I guess it works.
Yeah. It really did make sense. What would you say? Well, all right, I want to start with a little story. I remember a friend of ours was doing his first play with Paul, and they shared a dressing room. This is what I think suits what you're talking about is subconscious. It was a friend of ours' first play, and you guys were sharing a dressing room, and you guys both had very small parts as he tells the story. Now, this may be the stuff of legend. What's wrong?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But anyway, apparently the story is Paul came.
So I was just shouting.
Yeah.
Really? That's amazing. But you heard every word. Say theater.
That's why it gets you education, kids. The story is you were in the dressing room. You guys had small parts, and on the first when performances start, that you brought down like a book of the collected works of Charles Dickens, and that you just did. As the story was told to me, you just sit there every night reading Dickens. And this is Alessandro Nivola, and you would say, it's time to go, it's time to get on, it's time to get on. And you're like, really? You said you were so calm and so much more interested in the Dickens than the play you guys are doing.
That might be true. That might be true. I do remember that, and I did. I think
the Yale rep?
Yeah, it must have been the Yale rep. Yes, it was. And I remember the play, but I do think I had such a small part that I was relishing the fact I could sit there and read. Yeah, it was like, oh wow, I get to read. I get to I love to read. So it's
the reason I bring up Arcadia and that is thinking about what has the journey been like for you. We both dedicated our lives to this profession, and it makes me incredibly happy to see it result in the work that you're doing right here is the work we dreamed of doing.
Yeah.
I mean, Alexander we grew up watching movies in the 70s.
Yeah.
Right? And this kind of this ethos of humanity. And that's where the culture wasn't about selling things, it wasn't about advertising. It was movies, rock and roll,
human
theater.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be a celebration of humanity.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of work you got into this job to do, and
It's
you're
true.
getting to do it.
Yes, it's true.
How is that journey? Is
Oh
it
my
too
God.
generic a question?
No, it's not. But I mean, it's a big question. It's interesting that I did a movie with him 20 years ago, and now 20 years later. So in a way, it makes something kind of clear to me, because I can sort of bookend it with these two experiences with the same guy. And then, so that those 20 years, I mean, it's not a generic question, but it's a big question. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I think everything I've been through in the past 20 years, everything personally in the past 20 years, it's mind-blowing that I'm still walking and still above ground. And it's kind of extraordinary to me to think somehow the closed loop of doing these two things with this guy makes me feel like I didn't make a mistake in my life, is the basic thing. Because believe me, I've thought a lot of times I've made a mistake in many ways, you know? And it's like, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing. But it was like this trajectory just landed me back somewhere that I felt was lucky the first time. I lucked out into something, and then had to go through a lot of not great stuff I didn't want to do, stuff that wasn't as good, stuff that was whatever, all over the place, and my life was crazy. And then to land back again at that place with that guy again was some kind of affirmation of something. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I mean, it's like, and so it was a sort of...
You did John Adams with Laura Linney, and I remember that was one of the first times where, I was a fan, and I'd seen American Splendor. I'm not sure if I'm getting the order of how it happened, but for me, I was a fan already, but I felt John Adams was a different kind of breakthrough for you.
Yeah, I mean, that was yes, I think it was. I mean, certainly that the tremendous demands of that thing, I wish I could go back and do that now, is the other thing. Because I think I'd be a lot less intimidated by it. It would still be a lot, but I think I would just feel more relaxed. I could worry about it less. I just feel like I'd be much more easy on myself. I just think I would be able to relax into it more. I think I'd be braver about making more space for myself. It was such a demanding...
Did you do that on this movie?
Yeah, I think I did. I think I did a little bit more, or I felt, maybe it's because of him being with Alexander, I felt like I had a lot of space,
Because he's confident in you.
Yeah,
because
he trusts me. He trusted me. I trusted him. We've been through it before. I know what he works like. He picks everybody he selects for every position in the movie. The crew, everything, knows what they're doing. He trusts them, they trust him. So it's an atmosphere of trust, you know. And
does it help? I'm curious about this. I'm forgetting for a second the young actor's name.
Dominic Sessa.
Yeah, Dominic.
Who'd never acted before.
He's fantastic.
Did everybody know that?
Yeah.
He'd been in a couple of plays in one of the schools we shot at. He was still a student there. He had a dorm room there still. And I was like, take me to your dorm room, dude. And we were like going and checking out his dorm room, and we were walking down the halls, and there were pictures of him in the school play. That's me. He would point to it. He was incredible. He's not been on film before, ever.
Well, this is where I'm going with this, is sometimes do you find that the act of teaching, when you're working with somebody who's younger, who's good, who's eager to learn, actually helps you?
Yes. Yes.
Like,
I don't know how much I taught him. I don't know how much he needed me to, but I know what you mean. How much I was protective of him. And
you're in the role of mentor, whether you're teaching or not. That's your role on set.
Yes,
and you're very conscious. In the movie, but on the set, young actors look at you. Well, so when do we leave the hair and makeup trailer? How much? How long do we stay at lunch? I mean, there's a lot of nonverbal that everybody's reading each other.
Yes, and there's an awareness that this is a kid who. I was constantly wanting him to feel comfortable and happy and be okay and stuff like that. But yes, I actually think in some ways too, his freshness to it, he was so smart and he was so new to it. And there were times when he would kind of slow me down a little bit by going, well, I need to talk this through because I don't understand. And it was a technical thing or a thing about his character. Because I think coming up the way I came up, I did a lot of utility character actor stuff. So I had to just be good at delivering what you needed me to deliver fast. And I still have that kind of thing, but with him, he made me slow down sometimes and actually just enjoy it more, appreciate it more, feel it more, give myself more room. Just watching him do it made me it's not like I'm on autopilot, but it clicked me out of a kind of slick professionalism that I can fall into sometimes. You know what I mean? It's like all of a sudden I was like, oh, I don't know. There's something in the texture of a young person like that changes things.
And I feel that there's something about a young person's idealism and what they're looking to you to show them what the profession can be. And it makes you think, well, what could the profession be? And
right.
Actually,
you have to reflect.
I've been telling young people this is the wrong. I've got to show them. I've got to actually be the person I claim to be.
That's exactly right. You've just put it way better than I. No, you
true.
did. No, that's exactly right. I had to be reflective in a way, and actually then act on all this stuff that I thought was the right way to go about this stuff. You're right.
You just said a really interesting. You knew Phil Hoffman, right?
Yes.
Right. And I had this amazing experience once working with Phil, who said, because we had different ways of working together, and he said, here's the thing is, I grew up a character actor. He's like, so I've spent my whole career trying to make the most out of 15 lines.
That's right.
And you've been like, you were the star of White Fang. You've been the lead of these movies, and you're like, oh, I'll give it the go on scene 23.
Right.
He's like, no. Right. If I'm playing cop to the left, I gotta figure out who my guys are. I see that in both of you guys. You never let a moment go wasted. They're always angling, because you want to make sure your scene doesn't get cut out.
Totally. And there's a certain pleasure, though, too. I never really talked to him about this, but there's a certain pleasure of working in that kind of confined space and having to work that intently. It's like a different body chemistry in some ways, but there's a real satisfaction in it. But it's hard, and you do get into a kind of mindset about this is how you work.
Great work habits.
Well, hopefully it does. It definitely creates a certain work ethic for sure.
And it's I see it in your work, and I saw it in Phil's. There's a ferociousness and there's just nothing lazy. There's nothing lazy.
That's good to hear.
That's good.
Sometimes I feel like I could relax more, though. And I feel like maybe as I'm getting older, I'm like, I can relax a little bit more. I can take it easy a little bit more, and it's like, and in this, it was great. I had these two wonderful actors. We could all rest on each other in a nice way, and I could relax a little bit more.
How did you feel when you first like, had you and Alexander thought about working together before it had almost happened and other things?
Yeah.
Was your relationship continuous, or?
Yeah, we became friends, and we stayed in touch, and we were friendly, and he had other jobs. That movie that he did, Downsizing, was something he wanted, the science fiction movie he did where everybody shrinks, was something he wanted me to do with him. And then, because of the size of the budget, it was fiscally irresponsible of them to hire me. So they went with my B team guy, Matt Damon.
Yeah. He gets all the jobs you turn down.
It's all my sloppy seconds. But so we went with him, decided we were going to do that, and we've talked about other things. He and I have talked about trying to do a private detective thing. How much
Yeah, you should do that.
I
You
really
have
want
to
to do a
do that.
private detective
Please,
thing. I really do, and I keep trying to manifest it. And Alexander says he really wants to do it because he wants to see me get beat up and shot at a lot. And I'm like, I love that, broken nose and all that stuff. But that, I don't know, we'll ever do that. But then this we tried to do a bunch of times, and it just scheduling. Two times we tried to do it. And
Did it feel good when the first day of shooting arrived?
Yeah, absolutely. And we had hit the right, and it was snowy, and it was cold. It was everything it needed to be, too. It was perfect. It felt exactly right, and we were at that place. And yes, it was this sense of like, finally we got here, and it was really. And then when it ended, it was just heartbreak. It was really, really heartbreaking to have it end. So it was Sideways when it ended, in a way that felt like theater more. When a play ended, I was bereft and didn't know what to do with myself for a while.
And would you say because that your imagination went so completely into that world?
I think so. And also this felt like a play a lot of the time, you know what I mean? It felt like the three of us on a big dark stage a lot of the time. Because it was big empty rooms and stuff.
The three of you are so good together. It's such a great ensemble.
It's a nice ensemble.
You can't take you guys apart in a, you're all three. It's the joy of ensemble acting when you watch the baton successfully go back, and each character is really interesting and really surprising. How is this whole experience of the promotion of it going?
It's fucking bananas. It's really wild. I mean, I did not realize quite what it was like, and I don't know whether it's more compacted because of the strike and stuff like that or not, but or whether it's the internet has made everything so much more kind of intense, but
Well, there was a time we used to be able to go to In-N-Out Burger and nobody would know.
That's right.
That's I've done worse than go to the In-N-Out Burger.
You're right. And nobody, and that's true. And all of it is sort of very intense. It's fun. It's been fun, and it's been great because it is a good group of people who are nice to be around all the time. And it's a movie that I really love. So that's what makes it a piece of cake. It's not like it's work. It's pleasurable, but it's a lot of it. And it goes fast, and it's intense. It's a lot.
I have one compliment that I really want to give you in public, which is, it's sincere, and so I want to lay it on you, which is that I'm going to paraphrase here, but I remember Denzel Washington saying something to me along this lines about awards, is that you never want an award to elevate your status. You want to elevate the status of the award.
Wow.
And I'll tell you something that
He can say that.
the Academy Awards have a higher status with you nominated.
Dude, that's
Okay.
Woo!
The award means a lot more to me because of their recognizing you
That's
and the
really
quality
nice.
of this work, because this is the best kind of work.
Thanks.
Should we open it up to
Thank
some
you.
questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
First off, I love you guys, and the movie are amazing.
Thank you.
This is actually the second time I've seen it. It's incredible.
Is it good the second time too? Oh, no, that's good. Okay. Okay.
My question was, how do you do the eye thing? I'm an actor. I want to know how'd you do it?
They keep telling me not to talk about this. It really bums me out. At first I kept telling everybody I worked with a contortionist from Cirque du Soleil to figure it out. And then I was like, so it's a very, I will tell you as much as I can. It's a very simple thing. And if you look in the credits, you'll see what it is. And it was tricky, and we moved this thing around in order to confuse you about what was actually going on with it. And it was so so you don't know what eye to look at. Hopefully you don't. Yeah.
Well, the second time I figured
Aha, very good. Yeah, and so, you know, but it was a fun thing to do. I like things, I like that kind of Lon Chaney thing, where you have like some weird thing that, or something like that. I love stuff like that, so it was fun to work with, yeah.
All right, yeah.
So I was getting like a real Hal Ashby vibe from this movie, and captured not just like the look, but also the ethos of 70s movies like that. Is there anything you did on set or like to prepare anything to like to capture that feeling?
I mean, it's very deliberately Hal Ashby. That's like Alexander's big hero, and so I mean, those are the movies that he really that's the guy to him that he. So it was deliberately in a lot of ways. He even when we did Sideways, he had us watch some Hal Ashby movies. The Landlord, you know, Landlord's an amazing movie, and so we had people. He had us watch them again. Dom in particular, he really wanted to watch them because he had no idea what these things were. So Dom was watching not only The Last Detail and The Landlord, he watched The Graduate and other things. Because Dom was 19, he just turned 19. He had no clue.
His parents hadn't been born.
His parents had barely, that's right. By the way, it's a really freaky thing to do a period movie that you were alive. You know what I mean? Everyone keeps calling it a period movie. I'm like, yeah, but I was alive. It's a period movie like A Horse and Carriage and like Gaslight and shit and Powdered Wigs. You know, so it's, but yeah, and the design was so great and the locations were so great and the costumes and all of that stuff was so great. It's an I mean, I think actually the way Alexander shoots a movie is, I imagine, probably, he doesn't use a monitor. Did you know this? There's, the monitor is sort of this video feed live that so you're seeing over in another work area what's going on over on set. He doesn't use a monitor. And that already feels like it's a different time, and he'll talk to you from the camera. He'll sit and say stuff to you from the camera. You have silent scenes, he'll talk you through. It's like a silent movie. He's telling you, why don't you get up and see what's out the window, or something like that. And it's just like, it's great. So there's an intimacy that feels 70s to me already, in my mind. In my imagination, I want to think that's.
But that's because you were stoned the whole time.
Then we're high, and then we're tripping the entire time. But so I think it's a lot of things contribute to it feeling sort of 70s. Yeah.
How much of the script was completely like word for word, or how much were you allowed to improvise in the scenes?
It's pretty much word for word when you get there. You'll get a script that's already pretty great. It's pretty much there. You rehearse for a couple of weeks. We were just talking about rehearsal. You rehearse for a couple of weeks. You do a bunch of sitting around and reading the lines, and then you can say, I don't know, this doesn't really work, and he'll fix it. He'll go, you're right. He loves to hear, you're right, that doesn't work. So you get all that done first, and then it's pretty much what you do when you get there. If you do some improvised things and he likes it, he'll keep it, and maybe it'll be in the movie. But oftentimes he'll go, stick to the script, please. And this very, very decorous Omaha way that he has. We're like, I think the script is an excellent guide to the story. You should read the script. It's really hilarious. And he'll do that, but it's really good. You don't need to mess around with it too much. It gives you everything, his scripts. So, there you go, yeah.
What were your first thoughts when you just read the script for the first time?
I thought, this man smells like fish. Why me? Why are you giving this to me and telling me this was written for me? And as I went along, I was like, oh, I see why you gave me this script. Yeah, I see why you gave me this. Because he knows, I think he even put the Roman history thing in there because I'm interested in Roman history. I think he did this to really grab me. But I remember thinking, I love it. It's a really great Christmas story. It's a real Christmas story. This is a real Christmas story. Because it's the lesson is one of total selflessness in the end. The guy commits an act of total selflessness. He does the really stoic thing in the end and sacrifices himself for somebody else, which feels like this genuinely Christmas, the real Christmas message kind of thing. I like that.
What I felt was beautiful about this is it's the whole in giving we receive.
Yeah.
Is that he does do that, and that sets him free.
Yeah.
We think we have to protect ourselves and protect everything all the time, and life is so much more mysterious than that. And by doing something generous,
right,
he's liberated. And that
But I love that idea of like, you feel you need to protect yourself so
Yeah.
much. He doesn't even know that he wants to connect to the level that he wants to connect, because he's got such an armature around him at this point. But that's exactly right. He frees himself at the end by doing this selfless thing. To where he goes, I don't know. But I liked all of that stuff about it.
Hi, I was just wondering, going back to what you said about growing up around educators, especially in this environment, were there any people that you knew that you drew from, or any affectations that you like?
A lot of
I need
affectations.
somebody like this.
Yes. I mean, there were definitely specific people. Yeah. There was a guy I had in high school who was a biology teacher of mine, Mr. Brown, who was this really kind of like, pasty little comb-over walking around in a bad sweater. And he smelled like an ashtray, and he was drunk. You could tell a lot of the time. And these schools were really intense places when I went there, and this guy had been there already for God knows how many decades teaching there. And I can remember, though, that he was a good teacher, and I can remember, but he was sarcastic and nasty, but he was a good teacher. And I remember one day I did badly on a test, because I usually did okay in the class, and he was handing them back, and he kind of looked at me and he went, "You okay? You all right? Everything okay?" And I thought, he cares. He gives a shit, this guy, actually. And I was almost taken aback. I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm fine." I'm like 15. I was like, but I remembered that. It stuck in my head forever that this weird little man that we all wrote off was actually cared about what he was doing. So there was guys like that, and then all of these people my father had as his friends, I keep seeing come out, and I didn't even know I was doing them, and they keep popping out in ways when I watch the movie.
Did you guys hear that? How do you
Yeah.
shake off something sad and disturbing when you're playing these dark themes?
I'd like to hear what you have to say about this too. Seriously, I think through the process of time, of doing it over time, there's a way in which I'm better at it. I don't know that I know why I'm better at it, letting go of it, getting in and out of it more easily. It didn't used to be easy to do, and there were times when I felt like, why do I have to keep playing these sad people all the time? Because I have to walk around feeling like this. I mean, I don't know about you, but I definitely absorb something always of whatever I'm doing. So I love playing a funny guy or a guy who's like kind of more up, because then I'm great in life. It's like, but it's hard. I mean, you're kind of always steeped in it. I mean, I've worked with some mostly British actors, I'm just gonna say it, who seem to be very good at like turning it on and off. I don't know why I say that. I don't mean to generalize.
Because they're not as good.
But I don't mean to generalize, but I mean, it gets better. I think also if you're in an environment where it feels safe, where you feel like you trust everybody and the other actors and stuff like that, it's easier to maybe feel like you can let go, or hang on to it for a while and you feel safe, and then you can let go when you go home.
Well, you said something when we were just talking a moment ago that addresses this point about the sadness that you felt when you rapped. And I have often, we all know this feeling. Sometimes when you're in a depression, it's actually hard to get better because there's a comfort in the feelings. It's like you don't want to get over it.
True.
For some strange reason, it's hard. It's like I feel this, like loneliness perpetuates itself. Like when you get you're almost comfortable in your misery because you know where you are, and in the landscape of these characters, you have a reason to live, and it's not an enjoyable one, but it's very difficult to let go of.
It's a melancholy too.
Yeah.
That's nice if you can kind of keep it.
And I
at that
will
level.
say, as I made fun of the British actors, the best advice I ever got from this was from a British actor, that I really changed my life in this capacity, which is that young actors often, and good actors, spend a tremendous amount of energy trying to get into character, where you kind of invite the ghosts from your past, you're conjuring your father, you're conjuring people that you met, you're thinking about what they have in their pockets, you think about how they walk, and you're asking yourself what's fake about it, and you're reading the same books they read, and you're wearing the clothes they wore, and you're inviting those in, and then you're wrapped, and they do nothing to let it go.
Yeah, to help you.
And whereas it's
dismantle
weeks of
it.
inviting some spirit into you. I mean, not to sound spirit, I don't mean to make it mystic, but it is like, it's a guided meditation. If you're playing this
Yeah,
part,
that's right.
You're walking yourself through a guided meditation
That's
on
awesome.
loneliness,
That's a good way to think of it.
and you have to guide a meditation out of it. And once this British actor said it to me, I realized why they're so good at turning it on and off is, frankly, they're better trained.
Yeah,
And they
that's
have
true.
They have a
That's
proper
true.
training
Yes.
about how to
Technique that lets them
you
decompress.
often see dressing rooms that are full of things that are going to invite your imagination into the world of the play. And you need to have things that you look at and absorb that take you out of it and let it pass through you rather than let it get caught in you. And I found that really helpful.
I like that guided
Yes.
meditation thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Speaking of that kind of art and the way you felt at the end, did you get to shoot this largely in sequence?
It sort of played out that way, actually. I don't know that there was any plan to do it that way, but it roughly worked out that way. So we did end up sort of shooting a lot of that last stuff was the last stuff we shot. So it worked out that way that yes, we did. Yeah.
I loved the way the young man, Dominic, played that last scene.
Yeah, that's great.
I have a lot of young people in my life, and it was so real to me.
So
They
real.
didn't put too much on it, and it just
So
like, it
much
was,
of what he does in this movie. There's that monologue he has in the restaurant with the camera pulling back from him. It's like, I mean, I've worked with people, seasoned, great actors who couldn't do what he did. And he did that in one take. And we did two just for the hell of it.
Wow.
He didn't have to. And I was just sitting there across from him, just astounded by the guy.
Yeah.
He was amazing. And he didn't push it. It was amazing.
He never pushed.
No, he never did.
All right, maybe one more. Yeah, in the back.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what reference, there's implications of Christmas Carol, but this movie is the gift of the Magi. And the second payoff is delayed with this kid. You're gonna give the best of what you have. And that's Christmas.
Yeah.
I think. This is
Yeah.
That's,
Well, but that's what you were saying, in
Yeah.
giving to receive, and that's exactly right.
and on fault, whatever character you do, there's an element of a benevolent criminal wanting to break out.
That's interesting.
The benevolent.
No, that's
criminal.
very
You should-
interesting you said that, because I used to joke around about how I play bad guys, and they're all a little bit bad guys in some ways. There's a little bit of a Bond villain in this guy, like wanting to get
When are
out.
you gonna get to do a Bond?
I would love to do a Bond villain. I did a Spanish horror show on HBO where I play kind of a Bond villain in it. But it's interesting that you say that, because I do actually, I think of all of this as the most benevolent possible con job, what we do. We're benevolent, benign con artists, and I really like that about it. The slightly illicit feeling about it gives me a thrill.
The end
You
of
know, Frank.
Sideways, 20 years ago, that was
What's that?
that character. 20 years ago when we saw your movie Sideways,
Yeah.
I think you have that expensive bottle of white.
He's
Cabernet
vaguely, they're all
And
vaguely,
you just break out and break the bank.
they're all slightly
It's
vagrant.
wonderful.
You're right, they're all slightly vagrant. Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you, I like that.
Paul,
Oh, good, thanks.
crush this turn.
Thanks.
Thank you guys for being here.